And minutes from now, President Obama expected to comment on the story all America is talking about today, the amazing rescue of Captain Richard Phillips by crack Navy sharpshooters who took out those pirates holding him hostage without hurting him.
And we begin, of course, with that story. We're getting some new details this morning about the surviving pirate that was captured by the U.S. Navy. All this as the Captain Richard Phillips is finally free, making plans to come home. This is some videotape after he was rescued. The snipers from the Navy took out 3 of his captors with 3 flawless shots to the head. They did it from a rolling warship said to be in choppy seas, ending that tense 5-day standoff. That 4th pilot, as I mentioned, is in custody. At this point, there are conflicting reports about how old he is. He may be between 14 and 16 years old, and his age may play a role in how justice will be served. Let's get to Greg Palcott. He's in Mombasa, Kenya for us. Greg, let's start with the reaction from the crew because they spoke out not long ago. It's pretty interesting stuff.
Absolutely, Jane. Yeah, I mean, last night when they got word on board the Maersk Alabama behind me, they went absolutely over the moon, unfurling an American flag, shooting up flares, sounding the horn, you name it, saying what a great hero their captain is. And then this morning, Jane, as you noted, they went before the media and gave a statement. The individual that said the most interesting stuff was Shane Murphy. Now, he's the number 2 on this ship. He's called the first mate, really. And he made 3 key points. The first one is this: an appeal to President Obama to deal with the piracy situation, that this is a time when the United States has to dig in and fight this problem. Number 2, he said that, in fact, that his crew did not surrender, that his crew did not give in, that his crew was right in the mix. And finally, Jane, an interesting message to the United States of America. He said, well, the U.S. Might be in a bad state and might be in an economic problem, but maybe look to what happens here and latch on to a little bit of hope. Jane.
Greg, talk to me also about this surviving pirate. We talked about how young he may be. He may just be a teenager. And what are the options? Will he be tried in the United States?
The government source tells me this, Jane. There are 3 options that officials are looking at very hard. And number 1 is, yes, bringing him back to the United States, possibly to New York. It's the New York FBI office has been investigating it. Federal charges could be pressed against him. Number 2, repatriating him to, not repatriating him, but handing him over to Kenyan authorities. This has been done in the past with other pirates. There was a memo of understanding between the United States and Kenya. And number 3, get this, a 3rd option they're looking at is giving him back to Somalia. Possibly, from my experience, he's given to the region of Puntland. They have a bit of a government there, but frankly, that would be more or less a face-saving measure if, in fact, we find out that he's maybe only between 14 and 16, Jane.
Wow. Greg Palcott's in Mombasa for us. Greg, thanks. That leads us to our question of the day. What do you think should happen to this remaining pirate? Should he be prosecuted by the United States, by Kenya, or, as Greg just mentioned there, should he be sent back to Somalia? You can send your comments to our blog, foxnews.com/happeningnow. The address is at the bottom of your screen. You can also email us there if you want, and we'll be reading some of your answers throughout the next 2 hours.
That daring military rescue at sea is sparking new threats against Americans. Angry pirates or seagoing terrorists, your pick. They're vowing revenge as they hold more than 200 other hostages captive right now. They're declaring the United States is enemy number 1, as the U.S. military reportedly considers attacks on the pirates' bases in Somalia. Let's bring in Director of Intelligence for Total Security Services International, Captain Raymond Brown. Captain Brown, also a U.S. Navy surface warfare officer. These threats that the pirates are making against some of the other hostages, against some of the other ships, how serious should we take them? I mean, do they have the means to act, the motivation?
Well, they certainly do have the means to act, but the status quo is unacceptable. And as I have said before, they're in the business of making money. They're not going to make any money with dead hostages, so I think they'll cool down a little bit. It doesn't mean it's risk-free, but it wasn't risk-free before Captain Phillips was rescued either. So we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, I think there are some steps that the United States can take to make this situation better.
All right, such as?
I think that the motherships that are going out as far as 450 miles need to be neutralized. The Boston whalers, the rigid-hulled inflatable boats, they're not coming from shore when they're that distance. They are well out at sea. We as a nation, with the finest Navy in the world, can identify those motherships. We can do it through signals intelligence from past incidents reports, our aircraft, and find them. When we find them, have them heave to, tell them, abandon ship, your ship is going away. And then we can either sink with gunfire, go aboard and disable and scuttle, or maybe have some people who need some money make it, have the Dutch high seas towing fleet take them to the shipbreakers in India and make them go away that way. But remove that capability from the pirates to go well offshore, and we'll have neutralized some of the problem.
But wouldn't the pirates then just hijack a bunch of other ships and turn those into pirates, pirate ships?
Takes time to do that. Yes, they might well do that, but I do believe that the United States and our allies in the international community conducting piracy patrols can win a war of attrition against these folks simply by removing their maritime capability.
It's been said that most of these seagoing merchant vessels aren't armed because that's simply against international maritime law. But I know there are devices like sound wave projecting devices and so forth that can drive pirates off. They use them on some cruise ships. Why not equip merchant vessels with that kind of technology?
Well, they can do that, and no, it's not against international law to arm merchant ships or the people in merchant ships. Many ship owners don't want the liability, and many of them do not care to have weapons all around their ship, and armed guards are very, very expensive. But you are certainly correct. There is a wide variety of non-lethal weapons. They cost, and the training costs, and that's a decision that the ship owners and the others associated with international shipping need to make. So far, most have opted not to arm their own merchant ships. They certainly can, but most have chosen not to.
All right. Captain Raymond Brown, good to talk with you. Thanks.